Hey guys, we're back on the Ultimate Crew Cab today. I'm tackling rust repair on this episode. I know it was only the last episode on this thing. I said I was going to start picking up the camera more and kind of doing a little more in-depth videos on this truck to show you guys more. But I went to town on this thing this morning and didn't pick up the camera once. But luckily, I'm picking it up now before I get everything completed on this cab corner back here. So I'm going to fill you guys in with what I've been doing on this thing. So let's go dig into it. Alright guys, like I said, I went to town with the cutoff wheel on this thing this morning and really dug into this thing, cut out the inner and outer cab corners. As you can see here, mainly just this rust here, but the big problem was the rust in the inner cab corner up here and down at the bottom. Got all that cut out, and the reason I have such a big piece cut out is because this inner panel here has spot welds up here, the inner cab corner. And you have to have access here to get those spot welds to cut those out. So cut this big piece out, and then I can cut out that inner panel completely. Here it is. And I got these replacements here. So these are the full replacements, the whole piece. And they go in like that. And you see I'll weld them up there where those holes are, and then weld it all along here. And then we'll weld the outer piece. Where did I set that? We'll weld the outer piece on it like so. I don't have it trimmed to fit yet. That's kind of that black mark was the don't go past that mark, because that's the edge of this piece. So I'll trim that to fit, and I'll flange it all along here so it's a strong repair. And all this green stuff here is an internal frame coating stuff I got from Eastwood. Like a internal frame coating that encapsulates rust and seals rust on stuff you can't get to. It comes with a big long hose, and I was going to do spots like this, like on the other side there that I've already repaired. I can stick that hose down in here and spray all in this, and spots you can't get to, like this hole here, you can spray it in that hole and get all that stuff. But since I had access to it, I went ahead and sprayed it while I have it open, so I can make sure I get good coverage. And then once I weld the other pieces on here, I'll go in and spray them again like I was planning on, so we get coverage on all the pieces, not just the ones exposed. But that's what that green stuff is. So I'm going to get working on fitting that inner panel. Have to do some more trimming over here to make it fit right and kind of get it clamped in the spot. Then I'll start spot welding, and then we'll fit the outer panel and get it all sandwiched back together. So that's what I've been working on. I'm going to get tackling on that, and I'll show you guys how the fitment's going once I get that sorted out. Alright guys, well I got the inner panel fit, and this thing fit fantastic. I was really impressed with the fit of this panel and how easy it went together. The exterior panel, that is another thing. The door jambs here are not fitting very well. I'm going to have to work on this a lot. I feel probably have to do some hammer and dolly work on that. I'm not the best at that, so I'm going to have to kind of play with it and try not to get too far along and have it be terrible at the end. Also been creeping up on the cut line here. I don't want to get too deep into it and then realize I cut too much off. I am going to flange this. So I have a sheet metal tool there that flanges this, and so I'm going to cut below the actual cut line and then flange it so it's stepped, and then I'll step that down here just so it's a stronger repair, because this panel is pretty flimsy. So I don't want to introduce a spot there that can crack or get weak over time. So I'm going to flange that there just so it's a stronger seam. But I do want to creep up on it, because if you cut too much, it's kind of a pain to add metal back and make it all happy there. So I'm going to cut this right here, and then I think about a 1/4 inch below that I'll cut that, and then we'll seam that together. So we'll see how that turns out. But for now, I'm just kind of double checking and triple checking things. Let's see if I can show you the seam here that I'm talking about. I have to get this door shut. All right, see that there, how it's just kind of that door is sunk in because there's no door seals there, but the seam there at that joint is man, the shadows are making it terrible to see. But you'll just have to take my word for it. It's hard to do with one hand, but I'm gonna get some trimming on this piece and trimming on the cab, and to see how the fit goes, and we'll see what comes out. Okay, so I've been messing with this rear cab section here, trying to figure out what I want to do with the pinch weld here on the door jambs. That replacement body panel, that part of it just fits terrible, and there's a big gap right here. I'll show it to you in a second, but I think what I might do is the original piece that came off of this, I might cut the end off just right here, and then re-weld it back onto the pinch weld. You know, I shouldn't have cut it off in the first place, but I might be reusing it just to get this pinch weld right and weld it back on there on those spot welds that I cut it out, and then just make a weld seam down here along the edge there. The only problem with that is we do have rust on the inner part right there. So it is thin, but it's looks like good metal up on the edge, so I'm gonna have to hug the edge quite close. So it's gonna introduce a lot more fitment and welding and stuff versus just slapping this one on and welding it. But let me show you what I mean by the fitment on this one. You see, you have it up there, how it's pretty far away from the original, and the seams here do not fit the door, and it's like pushed out there where that body line is, and it is not going to fit the door jamb well at all. So we'll see what I think once I start cutting into that. If it's too thin, I think it's too rusty, I'm not going to waste the time putting it back on. But I just wanted to show you guys the battles I'm having with using this replacement panel. I don't know if there's any better than this one. This one is actually a Dennis Carpenter part. I don't know if they're all the same, or, you know, this one came from Taiwan, has the black e-coat like all the stuff is that comes from Taiwan. But we'll see how I come along, and if I get it to fit better, I'll fill you guys in with what I decide. Okay guys, here's what I ended up doing. Ended up cutting the edge of the original panel back off and welded it back on the spot welds here, and I'm going to flange the inside of the replacement panel and flange it up here, but it fits way better. Let me show you here. You can see that gap there. It fits way better than that overseas stamped part. So in the future now, I'll know to not cut this off and just cut it here, and save myself a lot of trouble. So hopefully that helps you guys out if you're doing the rear cab corners on these trucks. But I'm gonna get I got to get the replacement panel all cut and fit, and then we'll see how it welds in. All right guys, well, I got the replacement panel all welded in, and I even ground it smooth. I did end up having to add a little bitty piece right here because the contours of this piece were nowhere near the factory piece, and it didn't match the door. So I had to add a little piece in there just to make it nice and flush with the door, because there was going to be a big gap right here. It was too far in. So I added a piece, bridged that gap, and it made it work out pretty good there. I think we're obviously going to have to add filler there, but I think it came out really nice. This stuff smoothed up really nice, and I did try very hard to not warp this panel, because it is very flimsy. Well, it's not now that I welded it in, but before, it's very flimsy, and you could just push this and move it wherever you wanted to. So I welded a piece of 1-inch square tubing onto it here to keep it flat. And I was really careful not to get too much heat in the thing, and it turned out really nice. It is very, very straight, so that was my goal. I wanted to practice on that before I started doing doors and stuff, where your outside skin is, because if you warp that outside skin, you're in real big trouble. Back here, it doesn't really matter because you can't see it, but still wanted to practice and make sure I did a good job. We had the same problem with the contours right here. The contour of the factory metal here bulges out more, and the replacement panel doesn't do that. So it was kind of a battle to get those two to match. If you can see, you probably can't see it, but it bulges out a lot more, and this panel's flat. So we're rather than trying to hammer that out and get it to match the surfaces, I cut out a piece here and kind of bridge the gap with that as well, kind of like what I did here, just to kind of make it flow together better. Back here where you can't see it, I'm not really concerned with it on this pickup, because it's not going to be a Concours quality, you know, restoration type deal. It's going to be a driver, so I'm still trying to do the best work I can. I also got the filler neck replaced. I don't know if I showed you guys or not, but I bought a replacement and it was way too small. Like you need a little bit of a gap there for your weld to bite into both metals and penetrate all the way, but it was like a full-on 1/8 inch or more gap, and it was just going to be a pain to weld because this metal here is actually pretty thin. So I just made my own. I still haven't ground that down, but we'll grind that down and get it all nice and smooth. But that's going together really well. I have started working on the door. We're going to do a lower door skin replacement. I have the door skin cut down, so that's going to go here. And this is actually a front door piece that I cut down to fit the rear door. But I am working on getting the old one off. I'm going to get this thing off, and I'll show you guys how that fitment goes whenever I get something further along on it. Alright guys, well, I thought I had filmed before I started welding everything in, but I guess I didn't film a video for you guys showing you how the fitment was going. But I did get the door skin, the lower door skin on. And I don't think I showed you, we had a rough spot here. This is the inner part right here. You can buy this whole lower piece right here. I didn't have one, and I didn't realize it was this bad. Whenever I thought it was just going to be little spots, I was going to spot fix it. But being it's on this contours here and this contour here, it was going to be kind of hard to make my own piece. So I went in my boneyard and cut out a chunk of door and welded it in here. It fit pretty nice. It had a little bit of rust spot right here. I could just cut it out since it was flat. Cut it out and welded in a new piece there. So got that inner part all fixed up, and I also got the outer skin mated to the door. If I can get it flipped over here. There we go. So I have the outer skin here on the door. If you saw there on the other side, I have the lip all folded over and dollied flat on the bottom, and all I have is the spot welds here welded. I'm going to weld this seam as well. So I thought this thing went together really nice. So I'm going to get welding that seam up, and we'll see how it grinds flat. And hopefully I can keep the panel straight right there, like I mentioned earlier, keeping the warpage down on these big flat panels. I think it'll be all right, especially since I flanged this. I'm not sure what the idea is with flanging it or not flanging it, butt welding it. I was told to flange it the way I was taught, but you know, you're introducing a spot there for moisture to get in there and rust potentially. I do like to flange it where it's pointing down, since this is all going to be welded up. This is going to be have fiber filler covering this, which is water, has a water barrier layer under it, not just regular body fill, so it will prevent moisture from getting down in that seam. And I'm also going to coat the inside of the door. So let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. Is the flange the wrong thing to do there, or is it a butt weld preferred, or is it not going to matter since I'm doing all the precautions to seal that up? So I'm definitely not an expert there, so that's just what I was told to do by someone I trust. So that's what I'm doing here. And anyway, we don't have a lot of salt or anything in Oklahoma, and this truck's never going to see it, so probably never going to be a problem even if it is. But anyway, just let me know down in the comments what you guys think. I always like hearing other people's opinions, because I learn, you know, I'm definitely not an expert on this stuff. I learn all the time. So anyway, I'm going to get to welding this, and we're going to see how it turns out. Alright guys, well, I thought I filmed a video of this door after I welded the the bottom edge there, and apparently I can't find the footage. So I either didn't press record on the camera or I lost that footage somewhere. Both are very plausible outcomes. But I did get this door pretty much finished. It's not final sanded ready for primer yet. It's just 80 grit right now. But I got all the low spots and high spots kind of smoothed up, at least good enough for me anyway for this truck. On that, you can see some of that fiberglass filler, that different color. That stuff's waterproof, so that's going over that seam where I welded it. And then I went over with a premium filler that's supposed to be a little finer, easier sanding kind of stuff. And there's some spots up here that were, I guess, from the factory welding these doors together. And I put some of that over that as well, just in case, you know, anything there caused any problems. And then all that smoothed up. So this thing is really ready for primer as soon as I get the bed and everything ready. I want to do at least the bed and then the rear doors that I'm working on. I'm still waiting on the hood and other door for this thing to get back from sandblasting and priming. And then I can body work them once they get back from there. And then I'll finish up the stuff on the cab and probably do it at a later date as far as the body work and then priming it. I don't want it to sit for a long time with sanded surfaces and bare metal. So I'm going to wait until I get this stuff knocked out, and then I'll start on the cab and doing the body work on the cab. Speaking of this stuff, I have the other door over here I've been working on. I got a spot welder stud thing with a slide hammer, and you know, it welds these things to the door. There's a big crater in this thing. It was cratered way in, and they had Bondo. You can see some of the body filler, the old stuff, and all they did was just fill it in, and it was a good 1/2 inch or more down. And the fill I'm using says no more than 1/4 inch, and I actually took it to a lot less than that. It is not perfect all the way across, but it's within probably an 1/8 inch. So there's going to be a little bit of body filler here to smooth that out. But it'll work good, I think, especially since I didn't even know that was there, and it was done the wrong way according to, you know, kind of the way you're supposed to do things. So I have some holes. Those are from them trying to pull that dent out. I guess they didn't do a very good job because they drilled holes the old way of doing it before you had stud welders, I guess. So I have some holes to fill there, and we'll sand this thing down and try to find the lows and highs. I kind of circled some spots I had noticed without even sanding, just feeling. And I also have to repair the door here. Luckily, this thing's got a lot less rust than the other one, so I only have to do this corner, and there's none in the bottom side. There's one little spot right there that I'll probably patch just with a piece of metal, but I don't have to do like the whole, or, you know, cut a piece out of a door like I did on the other one. Everything's good over here. We just got a little pinhole right there that I have to take care of, and this spot right here. So I'm going to do, you know, about a square like that, and we'll get this door sanded down and ready to go. All right, guys. Well, I have this door pretty much ready for body fill. I got the corner here replaced, so we cut out that corner to get rid of that pinhole and that rusty spot in the corner. That's all replaced. Nothing down here that I found. I did sand the door so I could kind of see the low spots and kind of get the fill where I need it. We got this spot, we got the holes all welded up and my studs all grounded off. I don't know if you can tell, it's not perfect. There's just a little bit of low spot there, but I need a little bit to a room to put fill on there to smooth all that out anyway. So we got between a 1/16 and an 1/8 inch right there to build that up to make that seam perfect. Hopefully it'll look good, being that it's on that raised area of the body line. I tried to make sure that the edges were flat like this. I did body work it a little bit with a hammer just to make sure that they weren't high. I wanted them a little bit low so we can make sure that they're flat all the way across. But unfortunately, whatever dented that door kind of made a low all in this right here. So if you can see right here, the sander didn't get any of this right here. So there is a little bit of a low spot there. So as far as I could tell, we got it pretty straight along here, but there's just kind of a little low right here. It's not terrible, but we'll straighten that out, no problem. A couple of low spots here. I think that's just kind of waviness in the door that was from the factory. Doesn't appear to be a dent. Same here and kind of down here. You know, it's not dents. It's just kind of lows and highs from just manufacturing the door. They weren't perfect from the factory. Over here we have a seam where the I guess the door was joined together. Same up here. I don't know if they leaded those. It's certainly a different material. You can see how rough it is. If they leaded those from the factory, they might have back then. I'm not sure, but I'm going to clean those up and just redo them just so they're smooth. I guess that's all. I'm going to wait to do the body work on the door till it's cooler. I'm going to wait in the morning. It's already like almost 80 degrees here, and I'm not good enough with that body fill to be working this stuff when it's 89 degrees because it hardens really fast, and I'm kind of slow still. So I'm going to wait until we have a cooler morning, and I'm going to do the body work on, or the mud work on this thing, so I have a little bit more time to finish that out. But right now, I think I'm going to tackle the bed seams on this bed here on the exterior and get it 100% ready to prime. I actually bought a inflatable paint booth. We might see that later on. It might take a week or so to get here, but ordered an inflatable paint booth just to help control overspray and create a better paint environment for doing all this stuff. I'm still unsure if I'm going to actually do the actual color, the top coat on this, but for doing primer and stuff, and just making a good environment for doing the paint, controlling overspray and all that stuff. I got that inflatable paint booth, so we'll see how that works. So I'm not going to actually prime it yet, but I want to at least get the bed seams all sealed up and make sure that's all going to look good, and make sure I can get that figured out. So I'm going to work on that right now. The stuff I'm going to use, first off, on the seam there was some rust in there, and I use this stuff called Rust Mort. It's like a rust converter compound. Removes and converts prior to applying body filler, primer, or top coat. So there's just some little rust down in there. I took a little wire brush, see if I got it here. Here it is. Had it on my drill and ran that. This is like a real fine, you know, it's not hard. It's a soft, fine, bristled wire brush. And it worked its way into that seam, and I ran it all the way down there, and it kind of flaked out all the flaky stuff. And that did a really good job, and just by itself there would probably be a pretty good cleaned up job. But I put that rust mort in there just because if you can see where it's dark there, that's where it's already converted that rust. It turns it black to like a inert material, I guess. I don't know. But we converted that rust in that seam. I have to clean that out really good. And then I'm going to use some seam sealer, go in the seams. And then I also got some of this, some solvent from the same company, Sim products. And when I put that in there, I'm going to run my finger down that, spray that solvent on it, and run my finger down there and smooth it out. So we're going to see how that turns out. So I'm going to probably try it on this side, maybe show you guys on the other side. We'll see how it turns out. Alright guys, well that went really well. You just saw me do the seam on the bed and the ends here. Put tape on the ends to keep things nice and clean. That worked really well because when you smear your finger down this, you know, it goes everywhere and it keeps it from getting on the metal where you don't want it. And then while it's still wet, you tear that off and it makes a nice clean seam in there. So that worked really good. Kevin Tates from Paintucation University actually gave me that tip and told me how to do that. Really nice, and thankful for him for that. And even up here with this really fine seam, it worked great. I was really happy with how it turned out. I got both sides done. I practiced on the other side and then did this side here and show you guys how it turned out. Really happy with that. So hopefully that paint booth gets here and I'll be able to get the bed, at least the rear doors and stuff I've body worked, completed in the paint booth, or as far as in primer, and get sealed up and everything, so everything's sealed. We don't have bare metal here showing. We're getting ready to get in my busy season, putting up hay and I'm not going to have as much time to work on this thing, and I don't want this thing sitting with a bunch of bare metal sitting around. So hopefully that paint booth gets here. If not, I can put primer on it without the paint booth. I just wanted to try it out and see how it works. But get this thing sealed up and finish this rear door here and get it sealed up as well. I hope you guys are enjoying this episode. I'm going to cut it quits here so I can get this episode out to you guys and you can watch it. But for now, I'm going to finish working on this door, and we'll see if we can get this thing in primer. But like this video if you like this project, subscribe so you can see more. Thanks guys, see you on the next one.